Hello. Mm, mm. Trying to get it going here. I don't exactly know how long it would take to read this document, but I'm feeling like it's got to be done because it's really alarming to me. So, okay. I just don't think there's any way I could possibly like screenshot um, and read over 900 pages. So my thought is that if somebody is employing and having people to write over 900 pages of a project, then they're not doing it for no reason. Okay. So I'm prepared to sit here and read this because I want to know myself. Okay. Yeah. Okay. My God. People don't spend this amount of time doing this for no reason. Okay. Project 2025 mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. If I had a research assistant, I'd ask them to look up the Heritage Foundation for me because, um, hi, Alan. Well, what's going on is like that. I didn't realize that on October 7th, when, the attack was done, to Israel, I didn't realize that they took the dead bodies. They're not just holding hostages, not just, but holding hostages that are alive. These are dead bodies. So, in the meantime, while, you've got the 14 governing like groups in Palestine meeting in Beijing and coming to an agreement that after the war they will govern Gaza and the West Bank. But nowhere in that article by the Associated Press there is there a mention of those hostages. Where Israel is really, like about getting those hostages back, their bodies. How do you sign an agreement in Beijing, China, saying that they'll receive the? Uh, okay, I just don't even. That's not even what this is. But to have a over 900-page document written up, there's a problem going on here when people are spray painting, who negotiates with terrorists? I don't understand, like, what is going on here. You're going to allow terrorists to continue to. I just am in shock. So I'm sorry, I do care about the world and what's going on, and I don't think that anybody is going to sit there and read 900 pages of something, including the person running for the presidency, or maybe not even the people running against him have read it. But this is important, and you can't have this going on. You can't have this going on. There's way more to this than is meeting the eye, in my opinion. And yeah, this work, Mandate for Leadership 2025, The Conservative Promise is a collective effort of hundreds of volunteers who have banded together in the spirit of advancing positive change for America. Our work is by no means the comprehensive compendium of conservative policies, nor is our group the exclusive cadre of conservative thinkers. The ideas expressed in this volume are not necessarily shared by all. What unites us is the drive to make our country better. It is crazy, Ellen, isn't it? First and foremost, we thank the chapter authors and contributors who gave so freely of their time in service of their country. No, 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 no. They're that's no, it's in service of their party. The fact of the matter is, this is an over 900 page thing that these people, nobody, while they're sitting there and they're voting and they're doing whatever, they are not going to have read this. We want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is the conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon January 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now part of it. Indeed, one set of eyes reading these passages will be those of the 47th President of the United States. And we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. History teaches that a president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's opening days. To execute requires a well conceived, coordinated, unified plan and a trained and committed cadre of personnel to implement it. Really? In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally begin transition planning in the late spring of election year, or even after the party's nomination was secured. That is too late. See, the fact that he had people writing over 900 pages. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at a seemingly logarithmic, okay, I don't know what that means, rate every 4 years. But conservatives to have, I'm sorry, for conservatives to have a fighting, it's chunks of that. Okay. For conservatives to have a fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government The work must start now. The entirety of this effort is to support the next conservative president, whoever he or she may be. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural mandate for leadership. This collective work by conservative thought leaders and former government hands, most of whom were not part of Heritage, set out policy prescriptions agency by agency for the incoming president. The book literally put the conservative movement and Reagan on the same page, and the revolution that followed might never have been, save for this band of committed and volunteer activists. Okay, hold up though. But was the country on the same page? I mean, with this volume, we have gone back to the future and then some. It's not 1980, it's 2023. The game has changed. The long march of cultural Marxism through our institutions has come to pass. Marxism? Really? The federal government is a behemoth weaponized against American citizens and conservative values, with freedom and liberty under siege as never before. The task at hand to reverse this tide and restore our republic to its original moorings is too great for any one conservative policy shop to spearhead. It requires the collective action of our movement. With the quickening approach of January 2025, we have 2 years and one chance to get it right. What? Project 2025 is more than 50 and growing of the nation's leading conservative organizations joining forces to prepare and seize the day. Wow. The axiom goes personal is policy. Sorry. Personal is policy. And we need a new generation of Americans to answer the call and come to serve. This book is functionally yeah, but what is logarithms themselves? Like, what are logarithms? I mean, oh my God, this book is functionally an invitation for you, the reader, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and Miss Smith to come to Washington or support those who can. Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. The project is built on four pillars. Pillar one, this volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed, and where disagreement exists, bracket out these differences for the next president to choose a path. Yes, it is, Pink Owl. Yes, it is. Pillar two is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations will then be collated and shared with the president elect's team. Pillar three is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. For the experienced, we will host in person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. In Pillar 4, the playbook, We are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of so help me God. What? What? As Americans living at the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. As conservatives, we are as much required to steward this precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to come join us at Project 2025. Here's the authors. Now, mind you, they said they were all volunteers. Okay. Darren Bakst, Bakst, is Deputy Director, Center for Energy and Environment, and Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Before joining CEI, Darren was a Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, where he played a leading role in the launch of the organization's New Energy and Environmental Center. For a decade, he led Heritage. This is Heritage? The Heritage Foundation. Food and agricultural policy work, and he edited and co-authored Heritage's book Farms and Free Enterprise. Yeah, so they're just talking some crap with that logarithms, whatever. I mean, he has testified numerous times before Congress, has appeared frequently on media outlets, and has played leadership roles in such organizations such as the Federalist Society, American Agricultural Law Association, and Food and Drug Law Institute. Jonathan Berry is managing partner at Borden Gray and Associates, serving as Assistant Secretary for Policy at the U.S. Department of Labor. Get the fuck out. This is a conflict of interest. As Assistant Secretary, yeah, you didn't block Pink Owl, right? Because they come here all the time. Coward. You didn't block Pink Owl, right? This is a fucking conflict of interest right here. No, no, but they've been coming here a long time, Pink Owl. Night Owl is somebody else now. Wisdom, right? Something wisdom. He can't be writing fucking policies like this shit. This is conflict of interest right here. I mean, acting as Assistant Secretary for Policy at the U.S. Department of Labor, overseeing. So all these people who during this administration were sitting there and fucking what, moonlighting during their jobs to do this. Okay, Pink Al, just making sure it's done here. Overseeing all aspects of rulemaking and policy development. At the U.S. Department of Justice, he assisted with the development of regulatory policy with the nomination of Justice Neil Gorsuch and dozens of other justices. Judge, they can't do that shit. He previously served as chief counsel for the Trump transition and earlier clerked for Associate Justice Samuel Alito and Judge Jerry Smith of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. Hi, Chosen One community. Can't do this. This is a fucking conflict of interest. Lindsay M. Burke is the director for the Center of Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Burke served on Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's Transition Steering Committee and Landing Team for Education. She serves on the Board of Visitors for George Mason University, the Board of the Education Freedom Institute, the Advisory Board of the Independent Women's Forum Education Freedom Center. Can't be fucking doing this, man. This is a conflict of interest. Okay, so we've established that the people who wrote it have conflicts of interest and are in positions where they're going to probably, get benefit from it. Probably going to benefit from it. So, 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. So that'd be 1980. Now, didn't we have a Republican president then? Both had been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. Worse still, at that moment of acute vulnerability and division, we found ourselves besieged by existential adversaries, foreign and domestic. The late 1970s were by any measure a historic low point for America and the political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. Today, America and the conservative movement are enduring an era of division and danger akin to the late 1970s. Now, as then, our political class has been discredited by wholesale dishonesty and corruption. Please. Like Trump isn't totally dishonest and corrupt, in my opinion. Look at America under the ruling and cultural elite today. Inflation is ravaging family budgets. Gee, do you think? Drug overdose deaths continue to escalate. Gee, do you think? And children suffer the toxic normalization of transgenderism with drag queens and pornography invading their school libraries. Overseas, a to, to, okay, totalitarian communist dictatorship in Beijing. Okay, but 3 days ago, 14 of the leading groups, governing groups of Palestine, including Hamas and Fatah, all met in Beijing. Is engaged in a strategic, cultural, and economic Cold War against America's interests, values, and people, all while globalist elites in Washington awaken only slowly to that growing threat. Moreover, low income communities are drowning in addiction and government dependence. Whoa. Whoa. The pharmaceutical companies that are A OK with your buddies who wrote this, who held fucking seats on the, you know, and these departments are in cahoots with big pharma, in my opinion. So disgusting right here. Wow. Contemporary elites have even repurposed the worst ingredients of 1970s radical chic to build the totalitarian cult known today as the Great Awakening. And now, as then, the Republican Party seems to have little understanding about what to do. Well, Associated Press didn't have little understanding about what to do when they printed the newspaper article about Hamas and Fatah meeting in Beijing, and the US and the UK all being on board with Hamas being part of a governing group of Gaza and the West Bank, while no mention of those hostages. None. No mention of it. The world pressuring Israel to come to ceasefire talks. They're trying to retrieve dead bodies while the world is looking upon the Associated Press, going through the back door over there at Beijing, meeting with Hamas and Fatah and the other governing groups, while Israel is fighting Hezbollah and Hamas to retrieve those hostages. Wow. Yet, the most alarming of all, the very moral foundations of our society are in peril. Well, you think? Maybe we should just all go up and grab people by the pussy. Maybe we should all go around with our own private jets and seatbelts made out of gold, right? Hmm? Yet students of history will note that notwithstanding all those challenges, the late 1970s proved to be the moment when the political right unified itself. And here's another thing, while they're talking about the transgenderism with drag queens and stuff, let's not forget Hamtramck wouldn't allow the LGBTQ flag to be flown, but they did allow the Nazi flag to be flown. I mean, I'm sorry. I care about the world and people in the country, and And I'm sorry if this is boring to anybody, but it needs to be read out, you know? Unified and the country and led the United States to historic political, economic, and global victories. Really? Because I remember people in line for gas. And I remember the recession. Hi, Danger. I remember all that. I do. The Heritage Foundation is proud to have played a small but pivotal role in that story. It was in early 1979, amid, amid stagflation, gas lines, and the Red Army's invasion of Afghanistan, the nadir of Jimmy Carter's days of melee, that Heritage launched the Mandate for Leadership Project. We brought together hundreds of conservative scholars and academics across the conservative movement. Together, this team created a 20-volume, 3,000 page. Wow. Now, if Reagan was still alive, I'd like to know, did he read that? Did he read it? No offense, but the irony of all hail the University of Michigan and you spelt university wrong. I'm just saying. Just saying. A 3,000 page governing handbook containing more than 2,000 conservative policies. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a hostage conflict then, too. Remember? The Ayatollah Khomeini and the Shah of Iran. And the irony of two of our own helicopters crashing into each other. And that's what, you know, where, supposedly Jimmy Carter, was failing in that. But here we've got, a 3,000 page governing handbook containing more than 2,000 conservative policies to reform the federal government and rescue the American people from Washington dysfunction. Hmm. They don't even mention the hostages there either. It was a promise from the conservative movement to the country, confident, specific, and clear. What was the promise? I mean, the gas lines were during Reagan's terms, not Carter's. What about the Iran Contra? I mean, like, come on, man. Like, Mandate for Leadership was published in January 1981, the same month Ronald Reagan was sworn into his presidency. By the end of that year, more than 60% of its recommendations had become policy. What am I getting at here? I'm reading Project 2025, Howard. And Reagan was on his way to ending stagflation. What does that mean, stagflation? Reviving American confidence and prosperity and winning the Cold War. Mm-mm-mm. The bad news today is that our political establishment and cultural elite have once again driven America toward decline. get specific. I'm reading what's written. The good news is that we now know, sorry, is that we know the way out, even though the challenges today are not what they were in the 1970s. Conservatives should be confident that we can rescue our kids, reclaim our culture, revive our economy, and defeat the anti American left at home and abroad. We did it before and we'll do it again. But the difference is we got Ronald Reagan saying, take down that wall. And we got Trump saying, build that wall. And at least Reagan, although he was an actor and everything, but he did have a political background, you know, at some point. He did work his way up. He didn't just go from some fucking, you're fired guy grabbing people's pussies to president. As Reagan said, freedom is a fragile thing and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. This is the duty history has this is the duty history has put before us and the standard by which our generation of conservatives will be judged. And we should not want it any other way. The legacy of Mandate for Leadership, and indeed of the entire Reagan revolution, is that if conservatives want to save the country, we need a bold and courageous plan. This book is the first step in that plan. I don't know. I mean, maybe we are at the point where fuck it, right? Who gives a fuck? I mean, fuck it. I'm certainly not. The conservative problem, I'm sorry, promise. This volume, The Conservative Promise, is the opening salvo of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. Now, isn't this what he should be telling people about while he's campaigning? Launched by the Heritage Foundation and our many partners in April 2022. Its 30 chapters lay out hundreds of clear and concrete policy recommendations for White House offices, cabinet departments, Congress and agencies, commissions, and boards. Okay, where's the Democrats 900 page? Right, Tander? Wildly unpopular. And 900 pages just throw out people right off, just like the 3,000 page one. Just as important as the scope of the conservative promises recommendations is the breadth of its authorship. This book is the product of more than 400 scholars and policy experts from across the conservative movement and around the country. Contributors include former elected officials, world renowned economists, and veterans from 4 presidential administrations. This is an agenda prepared by and for conservatives who will be ready on day one of the next administration to save our country from the brink of disaster. Wow. Wow. The Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work, but as our dozens of partners and hundreds of authors will attest, this book is the work of the entire conservative movement. Then they ought to be reading it out to people, and this should be the topic of his campaign. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forward, especially along with four broad fronts that will decide America's future. One, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Two, whoa, dismantle the administrative state and return self governance to the American people. What does that mean? Three, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Four, secure our God given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Wow, our nation's sovereign. What makes these four pieces of the conservative promise so valuable to the next president is that they cut through superficial distractions and focus on the moral and foundational challenges America faces in this moment of history. This was one of the secrets of conservative success in the Reagan era, one our generations should emulate. Yeah, they want to take away the democracy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Take away our freedom. Yeah. It was one of the secrets of conservatives. The secrets? Why would it be a secret? That should be their campaigns. Their. As in the late 1970s, Americans today experience the failures of political and cultural elites in countless ways. In the job market and in the grocery store checkout line, on the streets and in our schools, in the media and within our institutions. Yeah, we know that. We absolutely know that. So get rid of the private plane, buddy. Get rid of Mar-a-Lago. Get rid of all that stuff. But in truth, these daily dysfunctions are not innumerable problems, but innumerable manifestations of a few core crises. In 1979, threats we faced with the Soviet Union, mm, the socialism of 1970s liberals, whoa, and the predatory deviancy of cultural elites. Reagan defeated these beasts, wow, by ignoring their tentacles and striking instead at their hearts. His approach to the Cold War, we win and they lose. His economic agenda, the human dignity of work and its many rewards. His platform in the culture wars, the community of values embodied in these words: family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. This book and Project 2025 as a whole will arm the next conservative president with the same kind of strategic clarity, but for a new age. Yeah, exactly. Promise one. So here's Promise one of 2025, Project 2025, Promise one. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well being of the American family. In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see this in the popular left wing aphorism: government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of, well, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with the government. Really, because you said 400 scholars and authors had gotten together to do this book that has something to do with the government. So wouldn't that be contradict? That would, yeah. Clinton, we were in the black. Wow, we were in the best state we had been in for fucking ages, man. These are the mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, family, work, church, school, volunteering. Wow. Wow. Looks like they're dictating the people's lives here. The name real people give to the things we do together is community, not government. Our lives are full of interwoven. Yeah, it does. Sure does, Sandra. Yeah. Our lives are interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual, really, what about gated communities? And our individual and collective happiness depends upon them. But the most important community in each of our lives and the life of the nation is the family. Wow. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. You read the entire 900 pages, Sandra? You read the whole 900 pages? There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. That's a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve but can't are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. No, it isn't. It's created by prescribing people. Yeah, they're not held responsible. Yeah, the dads aren't held responsible. But then again, they don't even want to talk about the times that they drafted people with families into a war and they lost their life. I mean, or the mental illness that could have caused, or how social media might even be causing, or how the schools in places where, I mean, like, this is just incredible. This is crazy. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are headed towards social implosion. Exactly, Tander. Yeah. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue America's kids from family breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish this existential task. How would they do that? How would they do that? Yeah. Some are obvious and long standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code, and installing work requirements for food stamps. Wow, so you're just slamming at poor people, huh? These people, wow. Yeah, how would they do this? This is insane. But we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority and even use government power. What? Including through the tax code to restore the American family. Today, the left is threatening the tax exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. Wow. Whoa. This is off the chain, man. The next conservative president must make the institutions of America civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health. What? Reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans. Wait a minute. I don't get that. To deprive Americans. No, I didn't hear him denounce Project 2025. Not at all. Not at all, I didn't. So, don't you think though that even if Trump hasn't read this, that they're going to hold him accountable to it? He's not even reading it, really? Yeah, his people wrote it, exactly. Isn't the First Amendment freedom of speech? You didn't delete him though, coward, did you? I don't want. I don't want. You didn't delete him though, right? Yeah, don't delete him. So they're getting rid of any term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political Gordian knot. What does that mean? Is not a political Gordian knot inextricably binding up disparate claims. Wait a second. About free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders, and telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate it should be shuttered. In our schools, the question of parental authority over their children's education is simple. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a goal all conservatives and conservative presidents must pursue. But even before we achieve that long term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educators should be non negotiable in American schools, states, cities, and counties. School boards, union bosses, principals, and teachers who disagree should immediately cut off from federal funds. The noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from curriculum in every public school in the country. These theories, wow, poison our children who are being taught, on the one hand, to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they are, but if they're from a single parent, that determines, whoa. While on the other, they are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women, allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. Now that I don't agree with, like parents or physicians reassigning stuff like that before the kid can make their own decision. That I don't agree with. But design births, rich people will be doing that. They will be rich people, and it'll be called something totally different. Totally, totally different there. Uh, for public institutions to use, oh, geez, for public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions. Well, King of Chaos, what I'm telling you is Trump is not a politician. Uh, taxpayer dollars and the security of certain sexes and religions is a violation of the constitutional and civil rights and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. But the pro family promises expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president's agenda must go further than the traditional narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. He's a threat to everything. Where's he get off talking about single families and stuff like that? The threat is freedom. This resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children, like drug dealers, to get them addicted to their mobile apps. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. Yeah, those are Republicans. I'm sorry. Google is a. Hello, Swiss Miss. Swiss Miss, come on now. You're here for backup on politics. Well, what's a threat to democracy is not having enough candidates running. So, are you saying that smartphones and Google and stuff is not Republican companies? Are they not? Um, Many Silicon Valley executives don't let their own kids have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Doesn't Trump Twitter all the time? And other social media platforms. Doesn't Elon Musk own one of them? They are specifically designed to create the digital dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety. Really, I grew up in a single parent household and none of my siblings have ever done any crimes. We none of us have any criminal records. None of us. None of us. And my daughter grew up in a single parent household and is a triple major Dean's List student. Yeah, I know loads of people. I know people who grew up in two-parent households and are fucked. How about you? Would you grow up in, e-beggars? Because you seem kind of fucked. Did you grew up in two-parent, right? But neither parent was ever around you much. Didn't they both travel around and not spend a lot of time with you? No, they're not. No, they're not, King of Chaos. You know you're lying. You know you're lying right there. And look at you, Munchie. You're fucking fucked. Like you're like dirt. You're dirt. Look at Bobo's kids. Is that two parent? I don't know. Dirt. Dirt. Yeah. Dirt. Two parent households. What'd you grow up in, Swiss? Two parent household? Dirt. Look at TA. Two parent household. Dirt. Sure you do. Sure you do, Munchie. Is this how Republicans act? Andrew? No, let's let the Republicans in here act like fools and see who wants to streamline with them. You know what I'm saying? Right, Swiss. And yeah, but look at you, Munchie. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. No, Tandra, let's I mean, Munchie, you're a piece of shit. Yeah, well, here's another thing, King of Chaos. Also, the study data was that I was going to be dead within how long? Your study data also says Bobbles is a good person. I mean, your study data is nothing. Yeah, you can block them, Andrew. Not e-beggars. E-beggars can stay, but let his two douchebags, his backup, they're blocked. E-beggars can stay. He's the only one who would speak politics in a although not in the same sense of us, but who probably has clipped and pasted enough stuff to know a little bit. King of Chaos, here's the thing. No better way to divide a country than by making them think they have a choice. What are you going to tell me about Hamas and Fatah and the 12 other governing groups in Palestine meeting in Beijing to have talks, but not with Israel and not about releasing the hostages or the 40 bodies of those hostages? What about that, King of Chaos? What do you mean YouTube garbage? You think the hostages are YouTube garbage? You think the Associated Press is YouTube garbage? Are they? Well, I'm asking you about what about the meeting that, you know, Hamas and Fatah had in Beijing, July 23rd. What about that? What makes you think that all of this stuff? What I'm asking you though, gay beggars. No, I don't. No, that's not okay. Like, no, no, he's not. He's just not honest. Says, to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings, federal policy cannot allow this industrial scale child abuse to continue. Finally, conservatives should gracefully celebrate the greatest pro family win in a generation, overturning Roe versus Wade. A decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. I found it disgusting too, e beggars. I found it disgusting. Disgusting. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including in the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. What are they going to do with these unborn if they're born? What are they going to do with them? They said they don't like single parents. So what are they going to do with them? In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. I'm pro choice as well. How about sterilizing those fathers that go around blowing their load and then not providing? Are they going to sterilize those fathers? Are they going to sterilize them? Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Where do they get that fucking right? And how are they going to contradict themselves and say single parent, single mothers, families are what's causing the breakdown, and then call those mothers heroes. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. In summary, the next president has a moral responsibility to lead the nation in restoring a culture of life in America again. Promise number two. Now, isn't this what he should be saying in his campaign? I mean, it seems to me that this should be being, promise number two: dismantle the administrative state and return self governance to the American people. Bye, Alan. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Let's not keep arguing about the promise number one, because this is a 900-page document and I intend on reading it. So now we're at promise two. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. How does that comply with promise one? That doesn't even make sense there, to be honest. Right? It doesn't even sound like it coincides. Of course, the surest way to put the federal government back to work for the American people is to reduce. Sorry. Weren't you saying that he needed to step down? King of Chaos, stop it. You wanted him to step down. No, no, no. You were saying he should. Okay. The American people is to reduce its size and scope back to something resembling the original constitutional intent. Well, what I think is that every state should not have its own constitution. That's what I think. I think it became too convoluted when every state got its own constitution. Conservatives desire a smaller government, not for its own sake, but for the sake of human flourishing. No, King of Chaos, that's not in question. We're talking about Project 2025. You just pretended that you didn't put up a video and you didn't act like Biden needed to step down. You're pretending that loads of Republicans weren't saying Biden needed to step down. You're acting as if that didn't happen, e-beggar. So what? What are you saying? Like, stop. Really. In my opinion, Biden should have put Obama as his vice president, and as soon as he was elected in, resigned. If anybody's breaking any rules, well, I believe the media, even before she said she was running for president, said she was. And if anybody broke any rules, Trump did, because you're really not, nepotism is not accepted. It's just not. You're not supposed to be giving your family all the jobs and shit. They're not. Yeah, she hasn't even been made the candidate yet. The Washington establishment doesn't want a constitutionally limited government because it means they lose power and are held more accountable by the people who put them in power. Like restoring popular sovereignty, the task of reattaching the federal government's constitutional and democratic tethers calls to mind Ronald Reagan's observation: there are no easy answers, but there are simple answers. What? Trump has no political back. He can he can if he's vice president and the president steps down or dies. That's the only way he can be president again. It's what is it? Amendment 22 or something like that. Weren't we looking up? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can. But only that way. He can't run. See, Hillary should run is who should run, in my opinion. In the case of making the federal government smaller, more effective, and accountable, the simple answer is the Constitution itself. The surest proof of this is how strenuously and creatively generations of progressives and many Republicans, Republican insiders have worked to cut themselves free from the structures of the 1789 Constitution and subsequent amendments. Consider the federal budget. All right, King of Chaos, what is it that you don't understand about what I'm talking about here? Are you in here to throw people off Project 2025? You gonna keep arguing some bullshit right now? Honestly. Consider the federal budget. Under current law, Congress is required to pass a budget and 12 issue specific spending bills comported with it every single year. The last time Congress did so was in 96. Oh, gee, during Clinton? What a fucking surprise, huh? Congress no longer meaningfully budgets, authorizes, or categorizes spending. Oh, you mean like when George Bush the son ran and lost to Gore? Is that what you mean? I think Gore should have contested that. Absolutely. We'll never be the same again after that. We're never coming back from that. We were in the black, and this piece of shit stole the election, the son. All right, King Cash. You know what? I'm gonna give you 300 seconds to fucking think about. I mean, I don't even know if he's even listening to me. If his volume isn't up, can you type in that, e-beggars, you need to turn your volume up and listen to you know, the person whose chat you're into, not just argue with the people in the chat. Yeah, fucking gonna keep going back to a mute point. Fucker knows he was saying, oh, get Biden out. And now Biden's out. Now he wants to argue something out. Shut the fuck up. Stay on topic, motherfucker. Instead, party leaders negotiate one multi-trillion dollar spending bill, several thousand pages long, and then vote on it before anyone literally has had a chance to read it. Exactly. Exactly. Just like this. That's why we're reading it. But then you get somebody in here like e-beggars who wants to keep, fucking trying to change the subject here. Debate time is restricted. Amendments are prohibited. And all of this is backed up against a midnight deadline when the previous omnibus spending bill will run out and the federal government shuts down. Yeah, that's Republicans who like to do that. It does offend women, coward. Because I'm feminine. I'm a female, and I mean, like, he wishes he was a femme. Because I'm obviously, and Tanger's obviously smarter than he beggars. His femmes that backed him up was Munchie and Swiss. And brains don't have genders. That's the point of the gender listing. It's because you go somewhere in a male dominated, field, and you're a female, chances are you probably won't get paid as much. You may not get the job. They might even think, oh, she might get pregnant sometime, and one time, anything at all. Okay. A man, though, he can leave the woman and work under the table making fucking 25 bucks an hour. But they want to ban abortion. Yeah, work harder to keep her job, everything. Look at all those men that were the ones there at the whole Trump thing that went on at that rally. The woman who was in charge of the Secret Service got fired. Did any of the men? And that's the most bullshit thing I've ever seen. The Secret Service trying to protect some guy who's holding his fist up saying, fight, fight, fight. That was a fucking photo op if I've ever seen one in my life. But there's e-bags sharing out the video of that Secret Service woman. It is. Although the violent femmes, who they spell it F-E. Uh-oh. Hold on, you guys. Oh my God, hold on. I will tell you what, though, having Munchie come in, yeah, I thought I was hearing an animal trying to break in again. Having Munchie come in and say they're from a two-parent family is fucking ridiculous. And Ebegger is not answering my question about that he came from a two-parent family too. It doesn't make a difference. Two-parent, one-parent. It's about the person. It's about people inside. These fuckers want to take away people's rights. They sure do. This process is not designed to empower 330 million American citizens and their elected representatives, but rather to empower the party elites secretly negotiating without any public scrutiny or oversight. What do these fuckers think a 3,000 page and an over 900 page that the presidential candidate for the conservatives is saying he's not reading it? Bullshit, he isn't reading it. He knows exactly what the fuck it is. Maybe he isn't reading it, but he don't give a shit. He doesn't fucking give a shit. In the end, congressional leaders' behavior and incentives here are no different from those of global elites insulating policy decisions. You mean like the list of the people I started to read, the list of every person who had worked on this, and I could go into every fucking name, but 900 pages is a tactic. It's a fucking tactic. People aren't stupid. Some people are. Like e-bangers literally said, it doesn't matter that everybody wanted him to leave. So what did they want? They wanted Biden to leave and say here, so that means Trump, you're the president. And you know what? The reason why they're putting all this stuff first, talking about family and stuff, which to me, that's very alarming that they think they're gonna uh impede upon people's. He didn't leave office. What do you mean he left office? Oh my god, you beggars, please. I will end up blocking you if you gotta keep talking stupid. You're the representation that you want to be for your party right now. Especially with the laughing emojis. Yeah, he's extra. Yeah, he is. He's excrement. Yeah. Really, e-beggars? Yeah. This guy I can't believe e-beggars just said that. Yet he actually left office. I can't believe you just said that. You sound like a fucking idiot. Now I just gotta get rid of you. E-beggars, you've had too many chances to talk about what we're talking about. He can't. He can't keep up. He's too stupid. And that, folks, those the three people that you just saw represented us of their group in here out of 20 people. You've got me right now, me, Tanger, and Coward, and Pink Owl, and Ellen. Speaking sense right here. We're just reading. We're just reading something. Okay? That matters. Chosen One Community was even in here. I hope somebody didn't block her. She probably feels very strongly about stuff too. Okay? And I'm willing to sit here for no matter how many. Well, he only wishes he could be a femme. I really wish you'd stop. because you're not looking. Trump is excrement, you're right, but your misogynistic fucking shit is coming through right there. Yeah, you gotta stop. You're not making my argument of how smart we are in here come off really good. He's too stupid to be a femme or a male. He's excrement. I'm sorry, but e-beggars couldn't hold a candle to me or Tanger. I know, coward. There's no men talking in here. I get it. I get it, coward. I do. We were wondering how you came up with that name. The Coward Strikes Back. Is that we were wondering. Me and myself and I. I'm gonna keep going on with this though, because this is a fucking 900-page document, and I intend on reading it. Oh, I thought he meant like a guy in his court or something. I don't know. E-beggars, you were not blocked. We tolerated you. And you could not act any other way. Now, I'm sorry for the other people who support the terrifying person who, obviously paid these people or promised them, you know, gifts. But see, oh, okay, that's cool. And that's right, you did change your avatar from that little guy, and I like that little guy. That's fucked up. All right, I'm gonna keep reading now, okay? Okay. In the end, congressional leaders' behavior and incentives here are no different from those of the global elites insulating policy decisions, like the judges and shit, right? That they've been paying off over the climate, trade. Climate? What are you talking about, climate? These fuckers denied climate change. They denied global warming, motherfuckers. Trade, public health, you name it, for the sovereignty of national electorates. There is only one sovereign, and that is God. God is the only sovereign person. Public scrutiny and democratic accountability make life harder for policymakers. Ah, Democrats want transparency. That doesn't even make sense. How can you have one paragraph talking and complaining about your the democratic accountability making life harder for policymakers, but in the paragraph above it, you fucking complain about no public scrutiny or oversight. One policy, one paragraph over the other. Do you know why? They do it because they say nobody's gonna fucking read this, but they get a little giggle out of putting that contradictory bullshit in this. And they say nobody's gonna read it, and if they do, they got 16 people listening. Don't worry, YouTube and the other Trumpers or whatever, conservatives. Let's not even say Trumpers, because I mean, if he's gonna run around and pretend that fucking he wasn't like, oh, I don't even know what they're writing in there. Of course not, because he confessed he doesn't read. and people still want to vote him in. He said himself he doesn't read, and people still want to vote him in. I don't give a fuck what party somebody's running for. If they say to me they don't read, I say, you're fired. You're not qualified, buddy. You're not qualified. You don't read? You don't fucking read? Are you out of your fucking mind right now? You don't read? Fucking devil is in the details. You better read. You're signing shit. You're gonna say you don't read and people are still voting for him? And talking to people who aren't like they're stupid when I am willing to sit here and read an over 900-page document. It's not for me. I wouldn't vote for him. Know why? Nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, because he's not fucking qualified. He's not qualified for the job. If you love animals, please look it up. Look it up. Have you looked up everything he signed? If you love animals, let's talk about that. Let's talk about if you love animals. If you're going to talk about animals and e-beggars, I've seen you share videos of concern for animals and animals that could be going extinct and stuff. Please look at some of the hunting laws that, Obama had put into place prior. And the very first thing Trump did, look it up, man. Look it up. Through fucking 29,000 venues, 29,000 different search engines. Fucking look it up. Was the hunting of hibernating bears and wolves, game trophies, all that shit. Fucking look it up. Shooting wild horses from the air, baiting with donuts and stuff, but killing hibernating bears and wolves and their cubs. Fucking look it up. I'm not lying to you. I don't vote based on parties. And that is not okay. Nepotism is not okay. I did a video, I read it, nobody cared. Hi, coward. He made the Secret Service pay $650 a night staying in his. He swapped out Air Force One with one of his own jets. No, Tandra, please keep doing that. Please. You're one of the best people I know, and I don't know a lot of people I would say that about. And we don't agree on everything, and she's not my whipping boy. But I'll tell you what, I admire her strength. And one giant standing next to you, two giants, three giants. Their big old feet will stomp an army. And everything that you shoot at them will just, not only will the sun shine so brightly on their armor that they're clad in and blind people, but you just can't do it. You will never, they will never like, e-beggars, we gave you a chance to fucking speak. You complain so much about being blocked. You literally had the ridiculousness to type a statement saying, who cares if everybody had said he should step down? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, what the fuck, buddy? I couldn't tell if you were ignoring me on purpose, you had your volume turned down and ignoring me on purpose, you wanted to distract this plate. But I don't even think I saw e-beggars acknowledge Munchie or Swiss Miss. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. That's like acknowledging. Uh, Man, Kyle, you're pissing me the fuck off. You are. Damn. You fucking are. You are pissing me off. So, Tanger, please stay. Because if you don't, I'll be alone. And not that I'm always alone, and not that Coward isn't a great guy, but he's pushing our buttons, and I am willing to dedicate the time to read a fucking over 900-page document because I want to know as well. Please thumbs up, and if anybody would consider supporting the channel, if you'd like to, or just tipping your host, you may. And if you don't, you don't have to. But know that I will sit here and try not to get distracted and read this document. I understand, Tanger. But I noticed a lot of the books and stuff I'll start to read it online. I end up like not finishing it, or whatever. And e-beggars, he's one of the people who fucking he makes me feel kind of stupid about everything like I'll do, tries to come in and deter. But when you got Munchie coming in as your representative, as the two-parent family fucking offspring, that's fucking pathetic. That's pathetic. It's pathetic. So I don't care if there's 14 or 14,000 people who see and listen to this video, but I do appreciate it if people do. I'm reading this because I want to know. Because I care about this country. And I know that e-beggars also wouldn't answer me about what happened in Beijing and how the Associated Press made no fucking mention of the hostages and that I had no idea that those fuckers took their dead bodies too. Like, they're fighting a war for people who 40 of them are already dead. But it's coming across like it's about the Gaza Strip. It isn't. It isn't. People may not like Netanyahu. I don't know much about him myself, but with no plan in place, and I'm just wondering, when did we start negotiating with terrorists? I'm sorry. Beijing is included in the first paragraphs of this Project 2025 as being like an enemy, of being an enemy. And I'm sorry, but you got Kamala pressuring Netanyahu about a ceasefire. Like, do none of them read? Do none of them read? I'm sure, that the bottom line is Israel didn't pick up the guns, but they can't put them down because the Hamas charter clearly states no negotiation with Israel, as if they're terrorists. I'm not going to lie, I don't want either one of them. I'd like somebody who thinks about the Jewish people or even anybody living in Israel right now, not only Jews, as human beings. That'd be fucking great. As fucking human beings. I am so tired of seeing Israel wasn't doing nothing. They were having a concert. Whereas in Palestine, and it's not the Palestinians, but if 14, all 14, since 2006, there's been hostility between Fatah and Hamas. But they're leaving out Hezbollah, which they're partaking in this. Since when do we negotiate with terrorists? Anybody? I don't understand. Oh, you're gonna have it for your big fucking movie line, but not when it comes to Israel? There's no oil there. No, it was during a concert. Ugh, coward. I can't. No, he isn't. I can't do this with you. You're doing this on purpose. Like, you're insulting women and everything. I can't do it. I can't. You're fucking doing it on purpose. Like, that's the misogyny of you coming out. Like, man, it's fucking pissing me off. It's fucking pissing me off to the max. Like, pissing me the fuck off. Like, you think it's a fucking game or a joke or something. Like, I don't think he's feminine at all. I think he's a fucking misogynist. Like you, Howard, when you're drinking. And I think it's silly to come back after being on all this time to just sit there and push a fucking envelope like that. It's so silly. It's so fucking silly. so frustrating because they'll go, oh, and poor Coward finally pops back up, and SG treated him like this, but I'm sorry I just want to point out to every person who is a female that the consistent comparison of, you know, e-beggars to women is a fucking insult. I'm sorry. Clearly, he's a guy who is fucking a dickhead. E-beggars. Don't try to put it off on women, is why he fucking acts like a dick. He's a fucking dickhead. A dickhead. Exactly. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Making me so like trying to distract, right? Ugh. All those internment camps, their history wasn't told. How about when they were building them? I mean, it's not as if even before the internet, things weren't getting, the wool wasn't being covered over the Americans' eyes and, crimes to humanity. The sex trafficking of children, that's been going on and on and on. Look at Shirley Temple, how they had her acting like as if she was a little, a woman in bed with, oh, my husband's leaving for work. Now I'm in bed with you. She was like 4 years old. Those people got rich on that. You honestly believe for one fucking minute that, if whomever gets in office and is getting their pocket greased by some, who knows, anything at all those things they're sitting there talking about right there, except for the things that involve heart, like people who love somebody who maybe isn't the same sex as them, or people who are single mothers, or somebody who's been SA'd and they don't want to keep this baby, just having their choice, right? What they go on to mention in this was drag queens. This was what in their first thing, drag queens. Would that be what would be considered femmes? So at the end of the day, they're targeting groups here and trying to pretend that it's about freedom. And I just don't have the time or the desire to fuck around with people who will keep saying something that we have said 3, 4 times that we find it offensive, and you keep saying it, or or somebody like, I mean, Munchie coming in being your backup for a two-parent family offspring. Perfect. Perfect. Means it's even more important. So chicken winner, I'm not pointing you out for being a trumper or nothing like that. What I'm saying is, ain't it cool that you and Munchie vote the same? I mean, seriously, that should be indicative to people. The people who have been the most fucking rotten to you, if they're gonna vote the same as you, and the people who have been the nicest to you are saying we kind of got issues with this shit. Not that you're voting that way, but just, the person, the candidate, it's indicative of who they are. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. This shit is bullshit. It goes, oh, yeah. It goes, so public scrutiny and democratic accountability make life harder for policymakers, so they skirt it. It's not dysfunction, it's corruption. And despite its gaudy price tag, no, a gaudy price tag is what how Munchie said she wipes her ass with $100 bills. Yeah, that's what it's looking like, right? Yeah. Yeah. This is crazy, right? Isn't that nuts? Thinking they can just start fucking dominating over people and shit. Or like Crystal Love, you know, or a BB bragging. It's the bragging. That's the gaudiness. The federal budget is not even close to the worst example of this corruption. That distinction belongs to the administrative state. What does that mean? Administrative state. Can somebody just define that for me? The dismantling of which must be a top priority for the next conservative president. Holy shit. The term administrative state refers to the policymaking work done by the bureaucracies of all the federal government department agencies and millions of employees under Article 1 of the Constitution. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. That is, federal law is enacted only by elected legislators in both houses of Congress. The exclusive authority was part of the framers' doctrine of separated powers. They not only split the federal government, legislative, executive, and judicial powers into different branches, they also gave each branch checks over the others. Under our Constitution, the legislative branch, Congress, is far and away the most powerful and correspondingly the most accountable to the people. I thought they didn't want to be accountable. These motherfuckers, I swear to God, they gotta do something about this right now. So, So today in Washington, most policy is no longer set by Congress at all, but by the administrative state. Given the choice between being powerful but vulnerable or irrelevant but famous, most members of Congress have chosen the latter. Okay, right. So he wants a dictatorship where, okay, so he could propose, basically put his family in, he could name four people to be like, okay, yeah, okay, so yeah, this is fucking bullshit right here. But yet, during the riots in fucking Chaz Chop, what was that? Where it was happening? They called it Chaz Chop. So during those riots, when he gave state of emergency over to the, so that would mean there'd be no more state of emergency either. But he didn't mind it then when he was like, no, look though, that leader is a Democrat. She's the one that's letting the state get all torn up. Wow. Congress passes intentionally vague laws that delegate decision making over a given issue to a federal agency. The agency's bureaucrats, not just unelected, but seemingly unfireable, then leap at the chance to fill the vacuum created by Congress's preening cowardness. Didn't he replace a judge that wasn't even dead yet? A female judge or something like that? The the federal government is growing larger and less constitutionally accountable, even to the president every year. Okay, even to the president. A combination of elected and unelected bureaucrats at the Protection Agency quietly strangles domestic energy production through difficult to understand rulemaking processes, says the people who wrote a 900-page, whoa, bureaucrats at uh, bureaucrats at the Department of Homeland Security, following the lead of a feckless, what's feckless mean? Administration, order border and immigration enforcement agencies to help migrants criminally enter our country with impunity. No, they don't. Bathroom break, BRB. Okay, Sandra. Well, if you can't sleep, then whatever. Bureaucrats at the Department of Education inject racist, anti American, ahistorical propaganda into America's classrooms. See, they don't get to just fucking say that. Bureaucrats at the Department of Justice force school districts to undermine girls' sports and parents' rights to satisfy transgender extremists. Wow, this is crazy what they woke bureaucrats at the Pentagon force troops to attend. Didn't he? They said they were going to make people attend training. Oh my God. Woke bureaucrats at the Pentagon forced troops to attend training seminars about white privilege, and bureaucrats at the State Department infused U.S. foreign aid programs with work extremism about intersectionality and abortion. Oh my God. Love you too, Sandra. Unaccountable federal spending is the secret lifeblood of the great. You just blame the Democrats for wanting an accounting. Oh my God. Why would he call me? I'm live. Nearly every power center held by the left is funded or supported one way. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? Can you guys still hear me? Colleges and school districts are funded by tax dollars. The administrative state holds 100% of its power at the sufferance of Congress, and its insulation from presidential discipline is an unconstitutional no is an unconstitutional constitutional fairy tale spun by the Washington establishment to protect its turf. Whoa. Members of Congress shield themselves from constitutional accountability often when the White House allows them to get away with it. Oh my God. Cultural institutions like public libraries and public health agencies are only as independent from public accountability as elected officials and voters permit. Let's be clear, the most egregious regulations promulgated, I don't know, by the current administration come from one place, the Oval Office. The president cannot hide behind the agencies, as his many executive orders make clear. He is the responsibility for the regulations that threaten American communities, schools, and families. Yeah, well, Trump wasn't when they were doing the fucking Black Lives Matters protest, destroying everything at Jazz Chop. A conservative president must move swiftly to do away with these vast abuses. Wait a minute. To do away with these vast abuses of presidential power and remove the career and political bureaucrats who fuel it. Wait, so the president wants to do away with the abuse of presidential power. Properly considered, restoring fiscal limits and constitutional accountability to the federal government is a continuation of restoring national sovereignty to the American people. In foreign affairs, global strategy, federal budgeting, and policymaking, the same pattern emerges again and again. Ruling elites slash and tear at restrictions and accountability placed at the. This is fucked up, man. People with this fucking mindset, you can't be running in to vote for people who have put this already in place. When people say, what are your plans? What's your campaign promises? And he's not telling you 900 fucking pages. Fuck what, coward? Fuck what? The country? I don't know what to tell you. It is discouraging. Trump is a criminal. They centralize power up and away from the American people to supranational treaties and organizations, to left wing experts, to sight unseen, all or nothing legislating, to the unelected career bureaucrats of the administrative state. Yet, like his family members, as monolithic as the left's institutional powers appear to be, that is a fucking lie. The left is basically poor, and everybody knows that. It originates with appropriations from Congress and is made complete by a feckless president. What does feckless mean? Feckless. What does that mean? Oh my God. Oh my God. The conservative promise lays out how to use many of these tools, including how to fire supposedly unfireable federal bureaucrats, how to shutter wasteful and corrupt bureaus and offices, how to muzzle woke propaganda at every level of the government, how to restore the Americans' people constitutional authority over the administrative state. They just said they wanted to dismantle the administrative state, and how to save untold taxpayer dollars in the process. Finally, the president can restore public confidence and accountability to our most important government function of all, national defense. Whoa. The American people desire a military full of high skilled servicemen and women. Actually, I think that the people would desire peace. Very sad. Sad I'm only on page fucking 9. On page 9. Can you imagine? The next conservative president must end the left's social experimentation with the military. Restore warfighting as its sole mission, and set defeating the threat of the Chinese Communist Party as its highest priority. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. You know how sad it is to care about stuff and actually be informed and yet have had such that must this probably is part of the reason of what evil saw eh, to like silence me, you know what I mean? Because I find it very strange that those people were allowed to write Hamas is coming, lower those flags and fly that flag. And then that meeting in Beijing. And this was written in 2023. See, folks, there's already something in the brewing. Wow. You vote him in, he won't leave. And we're done. Yeah. I don't know how many people even care for if I read this or not. I care, but Just crazy. I want you to listen and listen good. To most Americans, this is common sense. But in Washington, D.C., and other centers of leftist power, like the media and the academy, that's terrible. This statement of basic civics is branded hate speech. Their outrage cannot be prevented. It must simply be ignored, and it can be. The left derives its power from the institutions they control, but those institutions are only powerful to the extent that constitutional officers surrender their own legitimate authority to them. A president who refuses to do so and uses his or her office to reimpose constitutional authority over federal policymaking can begin to correct decades of corruption and remove thousands of bureaucrats from the positions of public trust they have so long abused. The United States belongs to we the people. This is his prime, well, not his, but I'm just saying. Promise number 3, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. The American people's right to rule ourselves is the obverse of our duty. We cannot outsource to others our obligation to ensure the conditions that allow our families, local communities, churches, and synagogues and neighborhoods to thrive. The buck stops with each of us, so each of us must have the freedom to pursue the good for ourselves and those entrusted to our care. I don't even know what that even is supposed to mean, but they go on to say, to most Americans, this is common sense. But in Washington, D.C., and other centers of leftist power like the media, the academy, this statement of basic civics is branded hate speech. Progressive elites speak in lofty terms of openness, progress, expertise, cooperation, and globalization. But too often, these terms are just rhetorical Trojan horses concealing their true intention, stripping we the people of our constitutional authority over our country's future. That is a lie that they are telling you that they're telling. This is some fucked up shit. Indeed, they believe it is a kind of 21st century Wilsonian order in which the enlightened, highly educated, managerial elite run things rather than the humble, patriotic working families who make up the majority of what the elites contemptuously call flyover country. So, what he's basically saying is labor is going to be the collateral. That's the money is. The Wilsonian hubris has spread like a cancer through many of America's largest corporations, its public institutions, and its popular culture. Those who run our so called American corporations, so called, yeah, exactly, buddy. They're freaking they're the right. They're the Republicans. What the fuck? These people are fucked. Yeah. Today, nearly every top tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager has more in common with a socialist European head of state than with the parents at a high school football game in Waco, Texas. What a strange place to pick as your. I mean, I get it. What was it? I mean, I'm sorry. Many elites' entire identity, it seems, is wrapped up in their sense of superiority over those people. But under our Constitution, they are the mere equals of the workers who shower after work instead of before. What the fuck does that have to fucking do with anything? Showering for work before or after? What the fuck? I think it's an insult for people who take politics seriously and current events seriously and the future and the environment and everything. I think it's a fucking insult to have to vote with people that are going to vote for a particular party without them reading these 900 pages. They need to ask for Trump to sit there and read this shit and tell people line item veto what the fuck he's gonna do and not do. He don't get to run with this sitting there everywhere. This is everywhere. This isn't just some little thing like, oh, it's spouted up and some fake news thing. No, this is 900 pages. This is as it should be and must be. Intellectual sophistication, advanced degrees, and financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governance, what it means to live well. That knowledge is available to each of us, no matter how humble our backgrounds or how unpretentious our attainments. It is open to us to read in the book of human nature, to which we are all offered the key just by merit of our shared humanity. You know who wrote this? A bunch of fuckers who were like, what were they? 400 authors wrote 2.5 pages each. And counting on the fact that these fuckers won't read it. Just convoluted with a bunch of bullshit. This is fucking bullshit right here. Someone needs to sit there and highlight everything they got a problem with and talk about it publicly like an official. I mean, this is bullshit right here. Kamala needs to sit down with a highlighter, read this, and talk about this shit. Point it out. Let this be her fucking running point. Like, that look what they want to do. the most disgusting shit I've ever seen. Oh my god. I just, mean, here's the thing. Okay, I touched his blanket. Here's the thing about the founding fathers. They keep going back to the founding fathers and stuff, right? They do. Yeah, but you're like, all right.